Well, first of all, if we want to talk about Black people who immigrate here,
Yeah.
oftentimes they come here with, I'm not going to say they come here with a preconception about African Americans here, but there's a demographical difference between Black people from Africa who come here or from other countries that come here
Yeah.
and from African Americans that are actually already here. So a lot of them will immigrate here from backgrounds of, or coming over for college, or maybe they already had a family member from a wealthier background that is sending them over for college. That makes up a lot of, especially a lot of work visas will go to Nigerians and Indians because they're working in tech industries and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like these people are, and because in general, maybe wherever they're coming from, the economic opportunity is probably better in comparison to their country. That doesn't mean that they did a holistic review of the race relations of the United States and determined this country isn't racist anymore. I'm gonna take my chance over there. Yeah, it's better
Presumably
than
they thought about it before they immigrated.
I don't think that it's a
You don't think they thought, is it a good idea to move across the world to this evil racist country? Or you don't think that passed through their mind?
Because I think that a country can have done evil racist things in the past, and you.
But you're saying today it's still racist.
I think it's still racist. Yeah.
There you go.
Many of you know that kid. He's all over TikTok. But I want to point out something very specific here in that conversation. You see, he talked about the fact that people that come here from foreign countries that specifically look like me, Black. At least he insinuated that they don't do a deep dive into the dynamics between the folks that live here, white, Black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever you want. We don't take any looks into that before we decide to come here for either schooling or work. What that tells me is that he has zero concept of what the outside world, outside of his little bubble, is. None. Zero concept. Because here's the thing about foreign countries. We learn about everything taking place in America long before we got here, long before we find interest in coming here. We know more about American history than most Americans know about American history. We are inundated with it. In fact, we are taught about every single country before we get to that country. When we deal with social studies, we don't deal with social interactions. We actually deal with what other countries do in their foreign policy. We look at what other countries deal with their citizens. We look at how their foreign policy affects people like us in our country that we live in, as opposed to that individual. He proves that education in the system up here does not always make you intelligent. It makes you indoctrinated, and it makes you sound as though you should be wise, even though the things coming from your mouth are unintelligent. Now, I have seen multiple videos where he likes to speak as though he knows a whole lot, but still acts as though he's oppressed. I don't know how you can get to the level of intelligence he says he has while still being the kind of oppressed person that he thinks he is. You see, the crazy part to all of it is that people like him that push the same narrative over and over, and you can tell that at a young age he was told that he was going to grow up to be nothing, although he still grew up to be, in most people's eyes, something. But the problem with those people, they gravitate more to what they will never be able to do in their minds as opposed to what they can. You want to know why most immigrants that come here thrive is because they're not listening to people tell them they can't do something. They actually show up here and see the opportunity, and they do not listen to the negative stuff. You will actually see that in the Black communities today. You will see an individual looking at the world through untainted eyes and saying, I can do whatever I want. And when they do whatever they want and they move up, you know what names they're called, right? You do remember the terms that they're called by people just like that young man. In fact, there are countless videos of him calling people who are educated, who decide not to have that mindset, certain names. He's notorious for it. He loves doing that. He has no problem putting down someone who is actually born here, lived in a situation where one might think you would never make it out, makes it out. He loves calling them out with all kinds of names as long as they disagree with his view of the world. Because in his mind, his view is the right view. It's the only view, really. He goes on and talks to Michael Knowles about studies about social interactions and jobs and how Black people can't get this job because they're Black with no proof other than a name. A name. In fact, they set things up to make it look as though reality is black people can't get work here. Meanwhile, reality, where people actually leave their rooms and don't do a study, and they actually go and present a resume, and they tell people, this is what I can do, they get the jobs. You see, reality is completely counter to what they're trying to push to you. But as long as you believe it, they got the winning hand. I commend Michael for the conversation. And while the young man, he's seemingly very cordial in his relationship with Michael at the time, his conversation is very banal. He has 0 points to make because they're all based on emotionality, zero factual stuff. Even the things he considers facts are not facts. They're tainted, twisted, situational events that they label as facts. As long as there are people in this country that thrive, I cannot believe that this country is a, by nature, racist country. You can believe what you want, though. That's entirely up to you. Everyone has the opinion to be and the right to be wrong. If that's the way you want to live, though, feel free. But as for me and my family, I will be damned if some idiot in a TikTok box talk will tell me what my children can and cannot accomplish in America, especially having seen that I have done the very things that they say I could never have done because of my skin color. I find that whole anecdotal nonsense to be some of the most, what's the most nice way to put this? Moronic statements ever made. But hey, there's no accounting for people's lack of ability to use their minds and resources, so I can't stop that and I can't help that. If you want to go watch the whole video, it's over there on Michael Knowles' channel. It's only about 18 minutes long, at least the abbreviated version. But I can't say you'll learn anything from that young man. He's what I would call an educated fool. He has a lot of the information and he can regurgitate what he's learned from a social school. But as for life experience, nothing. And he will continue to have nothing because his mindset is nothing.